Commander Vexillar stood on the bridge of his warship and looked out at the stars. His massive form cast a long shadow across the metal floor. At 8 feet tall, his body was covered in thick crystal plates that could stop any weapon the galaxy had ever seen. His forearms moved smoothly as he checked the battle reports on his screen. The Zephrian Dominion had won another victory. The Corvani people had finally surrendered after 3 years of fighting. Their planet now belonged to the Dominion, just like 72 other worlds before it. Vexillar felt satisfied. The Corvani had been tough fighters. They had thick skin, like tree bark, and could breathe poison gas. Many Zephrian warriors had died taking their world, but in the end, the Corvani had broken. They all broke eventually. "Commander," said his second officer, Vexton, "the scout ships have returned from the Outer Rim." "What did they find?" Vexillar asked. His voice was deep and rough, like grinding stone. "A new system, sir. For planets around a yellow star, the third planet has life." Vexillar turned to face his officer. Vexilon was young for a Zephrian, only 200 years old. His crystal plates were still bright blue instead of the dark purple that came with age and many battles. "What kind of life?" Vexillar asked. "Intelligent beings, sir. They call themselves humans. The scouts say they are very weak." Vexillar felt his interest grow. New worlds meant new battles. New battles meant new glory for the Dominion. "Me the reports," he ordered. The main screen lit up with images from the scout ships. Vexillar saw a blue and green planet covered in white clouds. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. "The beings live on the land and in the water," Vexen explained. "They have only 2 arms and 2 legs. No natural armor, no claws, no poison. Their skin is thin and soft. They bleed easily." Vexillar studied the images of the humans. They were small, maybe 6 feet tall at most. Their bodies looked fragile. Some had dark skin, others light. Some had hair on their heads, others were bald. They wore clothes made of cloth instead of growing natural protection. "What weapons do they have?" Vexillar asked. "Primitive projectile weapons, mostly. Some energy weapons, but very weak. Their ships are slow and lightly armored. Scouts estimate we could take their world in less than a solar cycle." "How many of them are there?" "About 8 billion on the main planet. They have small settlements on 2 nearby worlds, but those our tiny 8 billion was a large number, but it did not worry Vexillar. The Nexus Collective had 12 billion beings on their homeworld. They had energy shields and plasma cannons. The Dominion had still conquered them in 6 months. "Do they have a government?" Vexillar asked. "Many governments, sir. They fight each other often." The scouts counted over 200 separate nations on their world. This made Vexillar smile. His crystal teeth gleamed in the light. A divided enemy was a weak enemy. Beings spent time fighting each other. They could not unite against a real threat. "Perfect," he said. "A species that wars against itself will fall quickly to true warriors." He walked to the tactical display in the center of the bridge. The hologram showed the human solar system in detail. 3 planets close to the star, 1 with rings, several large moons. Nothing that would help the humans defend themselves.
"Oh."
"Sir," said another officer, "should we call for the full battle fleet?" Vexillar considered this. The full fleet had 1,000 ships and 50 million warriors. It was the largest military force in the galaxy. But these humans looked so weak that the full fleet seemed wasteful. "No," he decided. "Take 3 dreadnoughts and support ships. 2 million warriors should be more than enough." His officers exchanged glances. Vexen spoke carefully. "Sir, the Corvani resistance was stronger than expected. Perhaps we should send more ships." Vexillar's eyes flashed with anger. "Are you saying these soft humans are stronger than the Corvani?" The Corvani had thick skin and poison breath. "These humans have nothing." "No, sir. I just think." "You think too much?" Vexillar cut him off. "Look at them." He pointed at the images of humans on the screen. "They have no natural weapons, no armor. They build their cities out of glass and metal instead of growing them from living rock. Their largest animals are tiny compared to us. What could such weak beings do against Zephrian might?" The bridge fell silent. Dexelar was right, as always. Every species they had conquered had some natural advantage. The Corvani had their thick skin. The Nexus beings could move through solid matter. Quintari could see in complete darkness. But these humans had nothing special at all. "Prepare the ships," Dexelar ordered. "We leave for the human system tomorrow. 30 days, we will have a new world for the Dominion." The officers began working on their screens. Battle plans were made. Supply lists were checked. Warriors were told to prepare for a short campaign. Dexelar returned to looking at the images of Earth. The humans in the pictures seemed to be doing normal things. Some worked in fields growing food. Others built machines in large buildings. Children played in parks while adults watched them. They looked so peaceful, so innocent, so completely unprepared for what was coming. The Zephrian way was simple. Arrive at a world, demand surrender. If they refused, destroy their defenses and take control. Most species surrendered after the first demonstration of Zephrian power. A few fought back for a while before giving up. None had ever defeated the Dominion. These humans would be no different. In a few weeks, their leaders would kneel before the Exelar and beg for mercy. Their world would become another trophy in the Great Hall of Victories, where people would serve the Dominion or die. It was the natural order of things. The strong ruled the weak. The Zephrians were the strongest beings in the galaxy. Everything else was just details. Dexelar dismissed his officers and stood alone on the bridge. Through the window, he could see other ships of the Dominion floating in space. Each one was a weapon of conquest. Each one carried warriors who had never known defeat. Soon they would add Earth to their list of conquered worlds. The humans would learn what every other species had learned. In the vast darkness of space, there was no mercy for the weak. 3 weeks later, the Zephrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Dexelar watched as his 3 massive dreadnoughts appeared on human detection screens across Earth. Each ship was 5 miles long and bristled with enough weapons to crack a planet's surface. "Sir, we are being scanned by multiple sources," reported Vexthan. "The humans have detected us." "Good," Dexelar said. "Fear should soften them before we arrive. How long until we reach their world?" 6 hours, sir." Dexelar nodded. 6 hours would give the humans time to panic. By the time his ships arrived at Earth, their leaders would be ready to discuss surrender terms. But as the hours passed, something strange happened. Instead of the chaos and terror that usually greeted Zephrian fleets, the humans began to organize. Radio signals filled space as military forces around Earth mobilized with surprising speed. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we are receiving signals from Earth. They want to talk." "Put it on screen," Dexelar ordered. A human face appeared. On the main display, it was an older male, with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. He wore what looked like a military uniform. Behind him, Dexelar could see other humans working at control stations. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. His voice was calm and steady. "You have entered our space without permission. State your intentions." Dexelar laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge like grinding rocks. "I am Commander Dexelar of the Zephrian Dominion. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and your people will be allowed to live as servants." Admiral Chen did not seem afraid. Looked directly at Dexelar with steady eyes. "We decline your offer. Leave our system now or face the consequences." "Consequences?" Dexelar could not believe what he was hearing. "You dare threaten us? Look at your ships compared to ours." "We've looked," Chen replied. "We've also done our homework on the Zephrian Dominion. We know about the 73 worlds you've conquered. We know how you fight. We know your tactics." This gave Dexelar pause. How could these primitive humans know anything about the Dominion? Impossible. You've never left your system, haven't we? Chen smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We've been listening to your communications for 50 years. We've studied your battles with other species. We know exactly what happened to the Corvani, the Nexus Collective, and all the others." "Then you know resistance is useless," Dexelar growled. "We know you've never fought humans before," Chen said. That's about to change. The transmission ended. Stared at the blank screen in confusion. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever spoken to him like that. Fear was supposed to come first, then desperate negotiations, then surrender. These humans were following none of the usual patterns. Sir Vexton said quietly, "Their military forces are moving into defensive positions around their planet. They're not running." Vexillar looked at the tactical display. Human ships were indeed moving to intercept the Zephrian fleet. They were smaller and weaker, but there were many of them. More troubling, they moved with purpose and coordination. "They're organizing supply lines too," reported another officer. "Industrial centers across their planet are switching to military production. It's like they've been preparing for this." "Preparing for what?" Vexillar demanded. "They cannot hope to defeat us." But as his fleet approached Earth, more strange reports came in. Human civilians were not fleeing the cities in panic. Instead, they were volunteering for defense duties, organizing medical stations and converting factories to build weapons. Children were being moved to safety, but the adults stayed to fight. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from their planet," said the sensor officer. "Powering up weapon systems we didn't know they had." "What kind of weapons?" "Unknown design, sir. They don't match anything in our database." Vexillar felt the first stirring of unease. Every species the Dominion had conquered followed predictable patterns. The strong tried to fight until they realized they were outmatched. The weak surrendered. Immediately, but these humans were doing neither. When the Zephrian fleet reached Earth's orbit, Admiral Chen's face appeared on screen again. This time he was wearing a helmet and battle armor. "Last chance," Chen said. "Leave now, and no one has to die today." "You're in no position to make demands," Vexillar replied. "Surrender, or watch your cities burn." Chen's expression did not change. "You know what your problem is, Commander? You think being tough means being the biggest and strongest? But we learned something different down here. What could you possibly have learned that matters? We learned that being tough means getting back up every time you get knocked down. It means adapting to whatever tries to kill you. It means never ever giving up, no matter how bad things get." Chen paused and looked directly into the camera. "We've been knocking each other down for thousands of years, Commander. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and extinction events. We've learned to fight in space, on land, in the sea, and in the air. We've learned to fight during the day and in complete darkness. We've learned to fight when we're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options." The human admiral's voice grew harder. "But most importantly, we've learned that when someone comes to our home and threatens our families, we don't negotiate. We don't surrender. We fight. And we keep fighting until either we win or there's nothing left of us to fight with." Vexillar cut the transmission. "Enough talk. Begin the attack. Target their largest cities." "Sir," Vexton said, "perhaps we should reconsider. These humans seem different from they are soft creatures with no natural defenses." Vexillar snapped. "Fire the weapons." The first Zephrian plasma beams lanced down toward Earth. But instead of hitting undefended cities, they struck energy shields that flared to life around population centers. The shields held. "Impossible," Vexillar breathed. Their technology readings showed they couldn't have shields that strong. "Sir." The communications officer called out, "We're being targeted by multiple sources. The humans are firing back." On the screen, Vexillar watched as hundreds of human missiles and energy beams reached up from Earth toward his fleet. The weapons were individually weak, but there were so many of them that they filled space like a deadly storm. Evasive maneuvers. He ordered, "Launch fighters." As Zephrian fighter craft poured from the dreadnoughts, human ships rose to meet them. The battle for Earth had begun, and already nothing was going according to plan. The space battle around Earth was nothing like what the Castellar had expected. Human fighters were smaller and weaker than Zephrian craft, but they fought with a madness that shocked the alien commander. When human pilots ran out of ammunition, they rammed their ships into Zephrian fighters. When their engines failed, they used the last of their power to crash into enemy vessels. "Sir, we've lost 12 fighters in the first hour," reported Vexton. "The humans are They're not retreating when they should. Dexalar watched the battle display with growing confusion. Every other species fought to preserve their lives. When a ship was damaged, the pilot would try to escape. But these humans seemed to care more about damaging the enemy than saving themselves. "They're using suicide tactics," said the tactical officer. "Damaged human fighter just flew directly into our cruiser's engine bay. The explosion took out half our power." "The cowards," Dexalar growled. "They know they cannot win, so they throw their lives away." But even as he said it, he knew something was wrong. These humans did not fight like desperate cowards. They fought with purpose and planning. Every suicide attack hit exactly where it would cause the most damage. "Sir, the human fleet is changing formation," Vexen called out. "They're trying to board our ships. Let them come," Dexalar said. "Our warriors will show them what real fighting looks like." The first human boarding pods latched onto the hull of the XLRS dreadnought. Cutting beams burned through the metal and human soldiers poured through the holes. Dexalar smiled. Now his warriors could face the enemy properly, warrior to warrior, but the reports from the boarding battles made no sense. "Sir, Sector 7 has fallen to the humans," came the first report. "How many warriors did we lose?" Dexalar demanded. 53. "Sir, but the humans only had 20 soldiers. Impossible. Send more warriors." "Sir, Sector 12 is under attack. The humans are using explosives in the ventilation system." "What? They're fighting in the air ducts?" "Yes, sir. They're crawling through spaces too small for our warriors. They're setting bombs and disappearing before we can find them." Dexalar felt his anger rising. These tactics are dishonorable. Real warriors fight face to face. But the human soldiers did not care about honor. They used every advantage they could find. When Zephrian warriors were too big to follow them into small spaces, the humans attacked from there. When the aliens' crystal armor was too strong, the humans found the joints where it was weakest. "Sir, the humans in Sector 4 have turned off the lights and are fighting in darkness," reported another officer. "Our warriors cannot see them, but somehow they can see us." "How is that possible, unknown sir?" "They seem to have special equipment that lets them see in the dark." Worse reports followed. Human soldiers used smoke to blind Zephrian warriors. They set traps in doorways and corridors. They used the ship's own systems against the crew, flooding sections with poisonous gas or cutting off air supplies. "Is not how battles are supposed to work," Vexen said quietly. "They don't fight with honor." "No," Vexen agreed. "They fight to win." On the main screen, he watched human soldiers moving through his ship. They were small and fragile compared. 2 Zephrian warriors, but they worked together in ways that made them dangerous. When one human was wounded, others would carry him to safety while still fighting. When they found a strong defensive position, they would hold it with weapons that seemed to appear from nowhere. "Sir, the humans in engineering have taken control of our power systems," came another report. "They're threatening to overload the reactors." "Send all available warriors to engineering," Dexalar ordered. "Sir, we don't have any available warriors. The humans have us fighting on 17 different fronts throughout the ship." Dexalar stared at the tactical display. Somehow, a few hundred human soldiers had divided his crew of thousands into small groups, fighting separate battles. Every time his warriors grouped together to attack one human position, the humans would retreat and attack somewhere else. "They're not trying to hold territory," he realized. "They're trying to make us chase them." It was working. The Zephrian warriors were getting tired from running through the ship's corridors. They were getting frustrated from fighting an enemy that would not stand and fight properly. Some were getting lost in sections of the ship they rarely visited. "Sir, we have a problem," Vexen said. "The humans seem to know our ship better than we do." "What do you mean?" "They're using maintenance tunnels and service passages that some of our crew don't even know exist. It's like they studied our ship designs before they attacked." The thought chilled Dexalar. Had these humans really been preparing for this battle for years? The evidence was mounting. They had shields stronger than their technology should allow. They had weapons that did not match their development level. They knew Zephrian tactics and ship layouts. "Sir, urgent report from the surface," called the communications officer. "Our ground forces are requesting immediate support." Ground forces? I did not order any ground landings. Commander Zephrian took his regiment down to secure the human capital. He said it would be an easy victory. Exolar activated the communication link to the planet's surface. Zephrian report. The reply was filled with static and the sound of explosions. Commander, ... under heavy attack. Humans everywhere. Request immediate evacuation. Zephrian, speak clearly. What is your situation? Sir, they knew we were coming. The moment we landed, they hit us with weapons from every direction. The humans, ... they fight like demons, sir. They use their own buildings as weapons. They collapse structures on top of our warriors. They fight from underground tunnels. Sir, they're using their own dead as bait for traps. The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Dexalor stood in silence, processing what he had heard. In space, his fleet was being torn apart by human tactics he had never seen before. On his flagship, human soldiers were running wild through the corridors. On the planet, his ground forces were trapped in a city that had become a maze of death. Sir, Vexton said softly, perhaps we should consider withdrawing. Withdraw? Dextalar's voice was dangerous. The Zephrian Dominion does not withdraw. Sir, we're losing this battle. These humans are not like any enemy we've faced before. Dexalar looked at his young officer. Vexton was right, but admitting it would mean admitting that the Dominion's greatest military force could be defeated by a species they had dismissed as weak. No, he said firmly. We are Zephrians. We're the strongest warriors in the galaxy. These soft humans cannot defeat us. Send word to the Dominion. Request the full battle fleet. Sir, that will take weeks for them to arrive. Then we hold. Until they get here, we are not leaving this system in defeat. But even as he gave the order, Dexalar wondered if his pride was leading them all to destruction. 6 months had passed since the battle for Earth began. What Dexalar had thought would be a quick conquest had turned into a nightmare that grew worse each day. The Zephrian commander stood in his damaged bridge, looking at reports that made no sense. Sir, the humans have launched another attack on our supply convoy, Vexen reported. His crystal armor was cracked from recent fighting, and his voice carried exhaustion. They destroyed 12 cargo ships before our escorts could. Respond how? Dexalar demanded. That convoy was protected by 2 battle cruisers. The humans used captured Zephrian ships, sir. Our escorts thought they were friendly until it was too late. By the time they realized the truth, the convoy was burning. Slamdy slammed his fist on the command console. The humans were not fighting like any enemy the Dominion had ever faced. They did not try to hold territory or build permanent bases. Instead, they struck like ghosts, appearing from nowhere to attack, and then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. What about the ground war? He asked. The humans have retaken most of their major cities, sir. Our forces control some territory, but the humans make it impossible to hold. They attack our supply lines, poison our water sources, and turn the local population against us? The population should be cowering in fear, the Xalar growled. Sir, the human civilians fight alongside their soldiers. Children carry messages between resistance groups. Old people make bombs in their homes. We cannot tell who is a threat and who is innocent. This was the most disturbing part of the war for the Xalar. In every other conquest, the civilian population had surrendered once their military was defeated, but human civilians seemed to consider the invasion a personal insult. They fought with kitchen knives and farming tools when they had no proper weapons. Sir, we have another problem, said the intelligence officer. Humans are learning our language and our technology faster than we expected. What do you mean? They've been interrogating our prisoners, sir, but not with torture or threats. They offer food, medical care, and safety in exchange for information. Some of our younger warriors are ... cooperating. Dexalar felt his anger spike. Execute any warrior who talks to the enemy. Sir, that would be most of our prisoners. The humans are very clever in how they get information. They ask simple questions that seem harmless, but when they put all the answers together, they learn everything they need to know. The intelligence officer continued his report. They have also been studying our damaged ships and equipment. Our engineers can reverse engineer our technology in days, not years. They are building new weapons specifically designed to hurt Zephrian warriors. This was another shock. Most species took decades to understand alien technology, but humans seemed to treat captured equipment like puzzles to be solved. They would take apart Zephrian weapons and build improved versions that worked better against Zephrian armor. "Sir, incoming message from the Dominion High Command," announced the communications officer. Vexler straightened his posture. "Put it through." Face of Supreme Commander Krextel appeared on screen. He was ancient by Zephrian standards, over 800 years old, with crystal plates so dark they were almost black. He'd conquered more worlds than any other. "Zephrian in history?" Vexler, the Supreme Commander's voice was cold. "Explain to me how a 3-week conquest has lasted 6 months." "Sir, these humans are not like other species. They fight with tactics we have never encountered." "Tactics?" Krextel's laugh was like breaking glass. "You have 2 million warriors and the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. What tactics could primitive humans possibly use?" "They do not fight to win battles, sir. They fight to make us lose. They attack our supplies, our communications, our morale. They make every day cost us more than we can afford."
Oh, nonsense.
"I am sending Fleet Commander Vaxel with the full battle fleet. 1,000 ships and 50 million warriors will end this embarrassment." "Sir, I do not think more warriors will solve this problem. The humans seem to get stronger when we send more forces. They capture our equipment and use it against us. They study our tactics and develop counters. They turn our own strength into a weakness. You sound afraid, Dexelar. Perhaps this assignment is too difficult for you." The insult stung, but Dexelar had to make his superior understand. "Sir, request permission to speak freely." "Granted. These humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They know every way there is to hurt an enemy. They do not care about honor or proper combat. They only care about winning. And sir, they are very good at winning." Krextal was silent for a long moment. "The fleet will arrive in 10 days. Do not disappoint me again." The transmission ended. Vexalar stood alone with his thoughts. Days until 50 million more Zephrian warriors arrived.
Ow.
But would more soldiers really help? The humans had shown they could turn large numbers against themselves. More ships meant more targets for human raids. More warriors meant more mouths to feed through supply lines the humans constantly attacked. Sir Vexton approached carefully. "There is something else you should know." "What now?" "The humans have made contact with other species in the galaxy. They are spreading information about how to fight Zephrian forces." Vexela felt ice in his veins. "What species? The Corvani resistance movement that we thought was destroyed? Some Nexus collective survivors? Even groups from worlds we conquered decades ago. The humans are teaching them our weaknesses." "How is this possible?" "The humans have been sending messages throughout the galaxy, sir. They're not just fighting us. They are organizing every species that has ever been hurt by the Dominion. They call it a liberation movement." Vexalar sank into his command chair. This was worse than he had imagined. The humans were not just defending their own world. We're trying to tear down the entire Dominion by teaching other species how to resist. Sir, there is more. The humans have begun raiding other Zephrian territories. Small groups using captured ships. They hit supply depots, communication stations, and isolated outposts. They leave behind information packets for the local populations.
What kind of information?
Instructions on how to fight Zephrian warriors, sir. How to make simple weapons that can pierce our armor. How to organize resistance cells. How to disrupt our supply chains. The humans are sharing everything they have learned about defeating us. Vexalar closed his eyes. The war was spreading. Beyond Earth, soon, every world in the Dominion might face human-trained resistance movements. The galaxy's most powerful empire was being attacked by a species that had never left their own solar system until 6 months ago. "Sir, what are your orders?" Vexalar opened his eyes and looked at his loyal officer. Vexton had served him well, but the young warrior looked tired and worried. All his soldiers looked that way now. The constant fighting with an enemy that refused to follow the rules of war was wearing them down. "We wait for the fleet," he said finally, "and we hope that 50 million warriors will be enough to finish what we started." But deep in his heart, Dexalar was beginning to suspect that no number of warriors would be enough to defeat an enemy that treated war not as a test of strength, but as a problem to be solved through any means necessary. Fleet Commander Vaxthal's arrival changed everything, but not in the way the Zephrians had hoped. His 1,000 ships and 50 million warriors were supposed to end the human problem quickly. Instead, they became the biggest targets the humans had ever seen. Nexalar watched from his bridge as the massive Zephrian fleet spread across the Sol system. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Surely now the humans would see the futility of resistance. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Vaxel ordered. The fleet commander was even larger than the Exalar, with crystal plates so thick they looked like natural armor. His voice carried the authority of absolute power. Admiral Chun's face appeared on screen, but he looked different than before. His hair was whiter, his face more lined, but his eyes held a fierce determination that made even Vaxel pause. "Fleet Commander Vaxel," Chen said calmly, "we know who you are. We know you conquered the Helix Nebula colonies. We know you personally led the destruction of the Wanderer fleets. We have studied your tactics for months." "Then you know resistance is hopeless," Vaxel replied. "Surrender now and spare your species further suffering." Chen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Still don't understand, do you? You think this is about Earth? You think this is about one small blue planet fighting the mighty Zephrian Dominion? Is it not?" "No," Chen said quietly. "This is about every species you have ever conquered, every world you have destroyed, every people you have enslaved. They are all here with us now." As if summoned by his words, new ships began appearing throughout the system. Corvani vessels with their distinctive bark-like hulls. Nexus collective ships that seemed to phase in and out of reality. Quintari fighters that moved like living shadows. Dozens of other designs from species the Zephrians had thought broken or extinct. "Impossible," Vaxel breathed. "We destroyed those fleets. You destroyed their governments and their armies," Chen agreed. "But you never destroyed their peoples. Will to be free. You just gave them the tools and knowledge they needed to fight back." Dexalar stared at the tactical display in horror. The combined fleet was still smaller than the Zephrian force. But these were not the same broken species the Dominion had conquered. These ships moved with purpose and coordination. They had been trained by humans in the art of asymmetric warfare. "We are receiving multiple targeting locks," warned a sensor officer. "Every ship in the system is aiming at us." "Fire on all targets," Vaxel ordered. "Show them the price of defying the Dominion." The battle that followed was unlike anything. In galactic history, the Zephrians had superior firepower and armor, but their enemies fought with human tactics. Ships would attack in small groups, hit hard, and disappear before the Zephrians could respond effectively. When Zephrian forces grouped together, the enemy would attack their supply lines. When they spread out to protect their logistics, an enemy would concentrate fire on isolated ships. "Sir, we are losing ships faster than we are destroying theirs," reported Vaxel-S tactical officer. "They are targeting our command vessels and supply ships while avoiding our main battle line."
"Cowards!"
Vaxel snarled. "They refuse to fight us directly." But Dexalar was beginning to understand. "They are not trying to destroy us ship by ship," he said quietly. "They are trying to make our fleet useless." He was right. The humans and their allies were not fighting to win a glorious victory. They were fighting to break the Zephrian war machine. Every supply ship destroyed meant less ammunition for the fleet. Every communication hub knocked out meant more confusion and delay. Every repair facility attacked meant damaged ships could not be fixed. Days passed, and the Zephrian position grew worse. Ships ran out of fuel and had to withdraw. Others ran out of ammunition and became floating targets. Still others lost so many crew members to boarding actions that they could barely function. "Sir, urgent message from the Dominion," announced the communications officer. "Multiple uprisings have begun on conquered worlds throughout the galaxy." Vaxel-S expression darkened. "What kind of uprisings?" "Resistance movements, sir. They are using human tactics and weapons. The local governors are requesting immediate military support." "How many worlds?" 47 and counting, sir." Thexolar felt the weight of understanding settle on him. This had always been the human plan. The battle for Earth was just the beginning. While the Dominion's greatest fleet was trapped fighting, in one system, the humans had been spreading revolution throughout the galaxy. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Outer Rim territories," came another report. The last message indicated that human-trained forces had captured the sector command station. Vaxthal stood in stunned silence. In trying to crush one small world, the Dominion had exposed itself to attack everywhere else. The humans had turned the Zephrians' own size and spread against them. "Sir, incoming message from Earth," the communications officer said. "It's Admiral Chen again." Chen's face appeared on screen, but this time he was not alone. Representatives from dozens of species stood behind him. Corvani, Nexus beings, Quintari, and many others the Zephrians had thought defeated. Fleet Commander Chen said, "I believe it's time we talked. Do not negotiate with rebels," Vaxthal replied. "You're not in a position to refuse," Chen said simply. "Your fleet is trapped. Your supply lines are cut. Your empire is falling apart. You can choose to end this with dignity, or you can watch everything you've built crumble around you." Vaxthal-esque crystal plates darkened with rage. "The Dominion will never surrender to inferior species." "Who said anything about surrendering?" Chen asked. "We're offering you a choice. Stop conquering other worlds, and we'll help you rebuild your society into something better. Continue as you are, and we'll make sure you never threaten anyone again. You dare dictate terms to us." "We're not dictating anything," Chen said patiently. "We're explaining reality. You called us the galaxy's weakest species, but you were wrong. We're not the weakest or the strongest. We're something much more dangerous than that." "What are you then?" Chen's smile was sad but determined. "We're the species that refuses to give up. The species that learns from every defeat and comes back stronger. The species that turns our enemies' strength against them. You're not fighting Earth anymore, Commander. You're fighting an idea. The idea that no one should have to live in fear of bullies like you." Vaxthal cut the transmission, but the damage was done. Round the bridge, Zephrian officers exchanged glances. For the first time in their history, they were facing an enemy they could not simply overpower. "Sir," Thexolar said quietly, "perhaps we should consider their offer." "Never," Vaxthal growled. "We are Zephrians. We do not surrender." "Sir, with respect, we are not surrendering. We are adapting. Is that not what survivors do?" Vaxthal looked at his subordinate with new eyes. Perhaps the humans had taught them more than just new ways to fight. Perhaps they had taught them new ways to think. Outside the command bridge windows, the stars held both the wreckage of war and the promise of a different future. For the first time in galactic history, the strong would have to learn to live alongside the weak as equals. And somehow, the galaxy's former victims had become its teachers.